Hello! So we're on to the next instalment of Wonder. So they've made it now to the special camp, and I know Augie was feeling quite nervous about this, but let's pick up from the chapter that you left off with Miss Healy yesterday. It's called Be Kind to Nature. An announcement came over the huge speakers next to the stadium lights. Welcome everyone! Welcome to the 23rd Annual Big Movie Night at the Broadwood Nature Reserve. Welcome teachers and students from MS 342, the William Heath School. A big cheer went up on the left side of the field. Welcome teachers and students from Glover Academy. Another cheer went up, this time from the right side of the field. And welcome teachers and students from the Beecher Prep School. Our whole group cheered as loudly as we could. We're thrilled to have you as our guests here tonight and thrilled that the weather is cooperating. In fact, can you believe what a beautiful night this is? Again, everyone whooped and hollered. So, as we prepare the movie, we do ask that you take a few moments to listen to this important announcement. The Broadwood Nature Reserve, as you know, is dedicated to preserving our natural resources and the environment. We ask that you leave no litter behind. Clean up after yourselves, be kind to nature, it will be kind to you. We ask that you keep that in mind as you walk around the grounds. Do not venture beyond the orange cones at the edges of the fairgrounds. Do not go into the cornfields or the woods. Please keep the free roaming to a minimum. Even if you don't feel like watching the movie, your fellow students may feel otherwise, so please be courteous. No talking, no playing music, no running around. The restrooms are located on the other side of the concession stands. After the movie is over, it will be quite dark, so we ask that all of you stay with your schools as you make your way back to your buses. Teachers, there's usually at least one last party on big movie nights at Broadwood. Don't let it happen to you. Tonight's movie presentation will be The Sound of Music. I immediately started clapping, even though I'd seen it a few times before, because it was Via's favourite movie of all time. I was surprised that a whole bunch of kids, not from Beecher, booed and hissed and laughed. Someone from the right side of the field even threw a can of soda at the screen, which seemed to surprise Mr. Tushman. I saw him stand up and look in the direction of the can thrower, though I knew he couldn't see anything in the dark. The movie started playing right away. The stadium lights dimmed. Maria the Nun was standing at the top of the mountain, twirling around and round. It had gotten chilly all of a sudden, so I put on my yellow Montauk hoodie and adjusted the volume on my hearing aids and leaned against my backpack and started watching. The Hills Are Alive played. The next chapter is called The Woods Are Alive. I have a feeling that movie night doesn't quite go to plan. What do you think? Somewhere around the boring part where the guy named Rolf and the oldest daughter are singing You Are 16 Going on 17, Jack nudged me. Dude, I've got to pee, he said. We both got up and kind of hopscotched over the kids who were sitting or lying down on the sleeping bags. Summer waved as we passed and I waved back. There were lots of kids from other schools walking around by the food trucks, playing the carnival games or just hanging out. Of course, there was a huge line for the toilets. Forget this. I'll just find a tree, said Jack. That's gross, Jack. Let's just wait, I answered. But he headed off to a row of trees at the edge of the field, which was past the orange cones, and we were specifically told not to go past. And of course, I followed him. And of course, we didn't have our flashlights because we forgot to bring them. It was so dark now, we literally couldn't see 10 steps ahead of us as we walked toward the woods. Luckily, the movie gave off some light, so when we saw a flashlight coming towards us out of the woods, we knew immediately that it was Henry, Miles, and Amos. I guess they hadn't wanted to wait online to use the toilets either. Miles and Henry were still not talking to Jack, but Amos had let go of the war a while ago, and he nodded hello to us as they passed by. Be careful of the bears, shouted Henry as he and Miles laughed as they walked away. Amos shook his head at us like, don't pay attention to them. Jack and I walked a little further until we were just inside the woods. Then Jack hunted around for the perfect tree and finally did his business, though it felt like he was taking forever. The woods were loud with strange sounds and chirps and croaks, like a wall of noise coming out of the trees. Then we started hearing loud snaps not far from us, almost like cap gun pops. That definitely weren't insect noises. And far away, like in another world, we could hear the singing from the Sound of Music movie. Raindrops on roses and whiskers on kittens. Ah, that's much better, said Jack, zipping up. Now I have to pee, I said, which I did on the nearest tree. No way was I going farther in like Jack did. Do you smell that? Like firecrackers, he said, coming over to me. Oh, yeah. That's what that is, I answered. Weird. Let's go. It's the end of that chapter. Now we're going to move on to the next chapter, which is called Alien. We headed back the way we came, in the direction of the giant screen. So they were heading back to the movie. They were doing the right thing. That's when we walked straight into a group of kids we didn't know. They'd just come out of the woods, doing stuff I'm sure they didn't want their teachers to know about. I could smell the smoke now, the smell of firecrackers. They pointed a flashlight at us. There were 6 of them, 4 boys and 2 girls. They looked like they were in the 7th grade. What school are you from? One of the boys called out. Beecher Prep, Jack started to answer, when all of a sudden, one of the girls started shrieking and screaming. Oh my God, she shrieked, holding her hand over her eyes like she was crying. I figured maybe a huge bug had just flown into her face or something. No way, one of the boys cried out, and he started flicking his hand in the air like he'd touched something hot. And then he'd covered his mouth. No way, man, no way! All of them started half laughing and half covering their eyes now, pushing each other and cursing loudly. What is that? Said the kid who was pointing the flashlight at us. And it was only then that I realised that the flashlight was pointed right at my face. And what they were talking about, screaming about, was me. Let's get out of here, said Jack, talking quietly, and he pulled me by my sweatshirt sleeve and started walking away from them. Wait! Yelled the guy with the flashlight, cutting us off. He pointed the flashlight right in my face again, and now he was only 5 feet away. Oh man, he said, shaking his head and his mouth wide open. What happened to your face? Stop it, Eddie, said one of the girls. I didn't know we were watching Lord of the Rings tonight, he said. Look, guys, it's Gollum. This made his friends hysterical. Again, we tried to walk away from them, and again the kid named Eddie cut us off. He was at least a head taller than Jack, who was about a head taller than me, so the guys looked huge to me. No, man, it's Alien, said one of the kids. No, man, it's an orc, laughed Eddie, pointing the flashlight in my face again. This time he was right in front of us. Leave him alone, okay? Said Jack, pushing the hand holding the flashlight away. Make me, answered Eddie, pointing the flashlight in Jack's face now. What's your problem, dude? Your boyfriend's my problem. Jack, let's just go, I said, pulling him by my arm. Oh, man, it talks, screamed Eddie, shining the flashlight in my face again. Then one of the other guys threw a firecracker at our feet. Jack tried to push past Eddie, but Eddie shoved his hands into Jack's shoulders and pushed him hard, which made Jack fall backward. Eddie! Screamed one of the girls. Look, I said, stepping in front of Jack and holding my hands up in the air like a traffic cop. We're a lot smaller than you guys. Are you talking to me, Freddy Krueger? I don't think you want to mess with me, you ugly freak, said Eddie. and this was the point where I knew I should run away as fast as I could. But Jack was still on the ground, and I wasn't about to leave him. "Yo, dude," said a new voice behind us. "What's up, man?" Eddie spun around and pointed his flashlight toward the voice. For a second, I couldn't believe who it was. "Leave him alone, dude," said Amos, with Miles and Henry right behind him. "Says who?" said one of the guys with Eddie. "Just leave them alone, dude," Amos repeated calmly. "You a freak too," said Eddie. "They're all a bunch of freaks," said one of his friends. Amos didn't answer them, but looked at us. "Come on, guys, let's go. Mr. Tushman's waiting for us." I knew that was a lie, but I helped Jack get up, and we started walking over to Amos. Then, out of the blue, the Eddie guy grabbed my hood as I passed him by, yanking it really hard so I was pulled backwards and fell flat on my back. It was a hard fall, and I hurt my elbow pretty bad on a rock. I couldn't really see what happened afterwards, except that Amos rammed into the Eddie guy like a monster truck, and they both fell down to the ground next to me. Everything got really crazy after that. Someone pulled me up by my sleeve and yelled, "Run!" And somebody else screamed, "Get him!" at the same time. And for a few seconds, I actually had two people pulling the sleeves of my sweatshirt in opposite directions. I heard them both cursing until my sweatshirt ripped and the first guy yanked me by my arm and started pulling me behind him as we ran, which I did as fast as I could. I could hear footsteps just behind us, chasing us, and voices shouting and girls screaming. But it was so dark I didn't know whose voices were there, only that everything felt like we were underwater. We were running like crazy and it was pitch black, and whenever I started to slow down, the guy pulling me by my arm would yell, "Don't stop!" Next chapter. Voices in the dark. Finally, after what seemed like a forever of running, someone yelled, "I think we lost them." "Amos?" "I'm right here," said Amos's voice a few feet behind us. "We can stop," Miles yelled from further up. "Jack!" I yelled. "Whoa," said Jack, "I'm here. I can't see a thing." "Are you sure we lost them?" Henry asked, letting go of my arm. That's when I realised that he'd been the one who was pulling me as we ran. He was trying to look out for him. "Shh, let's listen." We all got super quiet, listening for footsteps in the dark. All we could hear were crickets and frogs and our own crazy panting. We were out of breath, stomachs hurting, bodies bent over our knees. "We lost them," said Henry. "Whoa, that was intense. What happened to the flashlight?" I dropped it. "How did you guys know?" said Jack. "We saw them before. They looked like jerks." "You just rammed into him," I said to Amos. "I know, right?" laughed Amos. "He didn't even see it coming," said Miles. "He was like, 'Are you a freak too?' And you were like, 'Bam!' said Jack. "Bam!" said Amos, throwing a fake punch into the air. But after I tackled him, I was like, "Run, Amos, you schmuck. He's 10 times bigger than you." And I got up and started running as fast as I could. We all started laughing. I grabbed Augie and I was like, "Run," said Henry. "I didn't even know it was you pulling me," I answered. So when he was saying "don't stop," he was meaning "don't stop, keep running." "That was wild," said Amos, shaking his head. Totally wild." "Your lip's bleeding, dude." "I got in a couple of good punches," answered Amos, wiping his lip. "I think they were 7th graders. They were huge." "Losers," Henry shouted really loudly, but we shushed him. Probably best not to antagonise and wind them up even more, I imagine. We listened for a second to make sure no one heard him. "Where are we?" said Amos. "I can't even see the screen." "I think we're in the cornfields," answered Henry. "We're in the cornfield," said Miles, pushing a cornstalk at Henry. "Okay, I know exactly where we are," said Amos. "We have to go back in this direction. That'll take us to the other side of the field." "Yo, dudes," said Jack, hand high in the air. "That was really cool of you to come back for us." "Really cool." "Thanks." No problem, answered Amos, high-fiving Jack. And then Miles and Henry high-fived him too. It's quite a nice moment, that, in the book, because it just means that they're accepting Jack again, and maybe their friendship has restarted. But then look what happens. Yeah, dudes, thanks, I said, holding my palm up like Jack just had, though I wasn't sure if they'd high-fived that. I'll read that again. Yeah, dudes, thanks, I said, holding my palm up like Jack just had, though I wasn't sure if they'd high-five me too. Amos looked at me and nodded. It was cool how you stood your ground, little dude, he said, high-fiving me. Yeah, Augie, said Miles, high-fiving me too. You were like, we're littler than you guys. I didn't know what else to say, I laughed. Very cool, said Henry. And he high-fived me too. Sorry I ripped your sweatshirt. Of course, he was only doing that, pulling at him to make him keep going to get away from them. I looked down and my sweatshirt was completely torn down the middle. One sleeve was ripped off, and the other was so stretched out it was hanging down to my knees. Hey, your elbow's bleeding, said Jack. Yeah, I shrugged. It was starting to hurt a lot. You okay? Said Jack, seeing my face. I nodded. Suddenly, I felt like crying, and I was really trying hard not to do that. I just wonder why he's crying. Is he crying because of the whole experience was quite scary? Or I wonder, is he crying because this is quite a turning point in the story? The boys, Miles, Henry, and Amos, have all just high-fived him and paid him a compliment, saying, well done, dude. And it's that moment where the three of them have just accepted Augie for who he is. So is he crying about the experience, or is he crying because he's been accepted and he's feeling quite emotional about that? I'll let you decide. Wait, your hearing aids are gone, said Jack. What? I yelled, touching my ears. The hearing aid band was definitely gone. That's why I felt like I was underwater. Oh no, I said, and that's when I couldn't hold it in anymore. Everything that had just happened kind of hit me, and I couldn't help it. I started to cry, like big crying, what Mum would call the waterworks. I was so embarrassed I hid my face in my arm, but I couldn't stop the tears from coming. The guys were really nice to me, though. They patted me on the back. You're okay, dude. It's okay, they said. You're one brave little dude. You know that? Said Amos, putting his arm around my shoulders. And when I kept on crying, he put both his arms around me, like my dad would have done. And he let me cry. So something horrible was happening, being hurt by these people and threatened by these other people. But something really good has come out of it. The three boys have stuck up for Jack and Augie. Augie in particular, that's a massive, big deal for him. And for the first time ever, he's been accepted. And then, when Augie starts crying, before he might have been so embarrassed, he was embarrassed, he said, but I imagine that another time they'd have really picked on him for that and made out that he was a bit of a baby and a bit silly. But they've not done that. Instead, who was it gave him a hug? Amos. Amos has actually hugged him and said, you're okay, you're brave, you've done really well, and gave him a big hug to show him that it was okay and that he was with him and he was looking out for him. So this is a massive turning point in the book and changes everything. So something horrible, something good came out of the horrible thing that happened. Okay, so I think it's Miss Healy reading tomorrow, so look out for that, and the next chapter will be The Emperor's Guard, so you'll find out more about that tomorrow. So whatever time you're listening to this, I hope you have a lovely rest of the day. Bye-bye.